So we're starting off from the last week code base. You can find it in Teams. And we added yesterday a line to connect. We said mongoose.connect, and I passed the connection string. The last section of the connection string would be the database name. I didn't like April. Let me change that to week 2, maybe. Week 2, April.
Professor?
Yes.
Where do we add the collections?
Very good question. So where is the collection here in Mongoose? In Mongoose, there is no collection object. Instead, we have a model. So what I would do after now, this is going to create a TCP connection with MongoDB server. Now, when I create a model, the model will represent a collection. Okay? And every single instance of the model will represent one document inside the collection. That's how Mongoose. If I wouldn't be using Mongoose, then you would certainly connect here. And then from here, you will get an instance for the DB. And then you have to call a method called .collection, and you select the collection you want to work with. In Mongoose, you just define a model, and that will represent the collection. Okay, so let's define our model. Sure. Here, as you can see, I have some sort of structure that I would convert to a model, which represent collection. So inside models here, I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call meals model.js. And here I need Mongoose. So import Mongoose from Mongoose. And then I'm going to say const schema is mongoose.schema. And you pass the structure that you desire. Underscore ID will automatically be added. I'm going to remove. Title is going to be string. Category is going to be an object that has underscore ID and name. So the underscore ID would be object ID this time. We're not going to really add categories. So I don't know, I'm going to define the category just by name. Since it's just one property. Pictures. I certainly forget how we add pictures. So pictures.
It only has a name and ID.
Has a name and ID.
Yeah.
So we add a new picture. Find the meal. Oh yeah, it has an ID and file name. Good. So the ID will be automatically added. So I'm gonna say it's an object that has file name as a string. Ingredients. Let me have only one ingredient. And the ingredient is consisting of 3 properties. Just gonna make it more easier to read. Underscore ID will be automatically added, so I have a name and amount. Sounds good. Let's add the second level array. So every ingredient will have some brands. And every brand would be an object that has brand or name, which is a string. So this way we could work at some point on second level complexity. Sounds good for my schema. Now what I can do is create a model. So I can say mongoose.model, and then I can pick a name for the model. I would mention the singular form, and MongoDB automatically convert that to a plural collection name, and my name would be meal. And I'm going to pass the schema here. And I'm going to,
Professor,
yes.
Do we really need to put the field name in double quote?
Which line?
Line number 4, title. Do we
Yes.
really need to put the title into double quote?
Nope,
just-
we don't need.
yeah.
Do we need to double quotation? No, we don't. Title is a valid property name. We don't need the quotation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
They were added by default because I copied them from here, which also here not needed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Professor, so if we
Yes.
not push the required, so by default it will be false or true? So on the schema example for the title, so if we put the required, so it can set to a false. If we not put, so by default it to a false.
Yeah, we could do the constraint in here. We can say the type is string and required is true. And now if we try to add basically a meal without a title, the database is going to throw an error. Oh, sorry, Mongoose is going to throw an error because Mongoose is going to check for the title property for us. So we could also do that. That was the question, right? Yes.
My question is by default, if we not add the required, so it will be true or false. So the
If we
default
don't
value
add,
for the required. Yeah.
If we don't add the required, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So it will get the value is false, or we will throw exception, or the value will be false. So it means I have the property title. So in this schema, if I not set a required and I not put the value for the title, so it will be throw exception, or it will not throw any exception.
It's just going to be an empty property, or the property wouldn't exist, which is okay. Because you remember, MongoDB will accept saving an object that doesn't have this property. So this schema is basically guidelines, unless it is required. If the property is not required, as it was before, then it is okay to pass a title or without a title.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
okay.
and Professor.
No error will be thrown.
Professor?
Yes?
Can we define another schema and inject it in here as a composition? For example, I will define.
You can define this object as schema and pass the schema name as a reference. That's also possible, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But and this way, it doesn't mean that you are creating relationships. Nope. All the data would be in a single collection and they are saved here. The schema is just a structure that you define and you just choose to create them separately. That's okay. And as long as you don't add a ref. Ref is basically two collections. Yeah. Questions?
Professor?
Yes.
In this case, you're doing is include the submodel ingredients inside the meal, right? So
yes.
For example, the requirement is we want to have a separate model for ingredient because we want to search for all the meal contain one ingredient. So can you explain and code for the separate model and the relationship?
I would never do the ingredients in separate model. Why? Because every single time I'm gonna read the recipe, I need to read all its ingredients. So if I put these ingredients in a separate model, I need two queries to two different collections. And this is
Yes.
not a relational database.
Yes, I understand
Yeah.
about that, but I just say we have one more requirement that we want to find all meals had one ingredient. So which meal contain one ingredient? So we have to separate model for it, so
No,
we can
you
query.
just say, no, you just say find me an ingredient dot name that equal to this value, which is, for example, pepper. This query will find you all the meals that has pepper within. So you don't need to put seriously the ingredients in separate collection for that.
Okay, so in this case, the ingredient pepper will be contained inside multiple meals, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Multiple meals will have pepper as an ingredient. And all of the, yeah.
Later, we want to update the ingredient information, name, amount, brand, or something. So we have to update multiple meals, right?
Yes, correct. And if you choose to put the ingredients in a different collection, you should still save the ingredient name and ID inside the ingredients here. So you don't pick a random ID. That's also possible if you'd like to maintain, if you'd like the user to pick the ingredients from an ingredient list, for example, you can define all the ingredients ahead of time, but when you save them in here, you save the ID and name and possibly the current brand from the other collection. So you repeat the data just for the purpose that when you read the meal, you read all the ingredients at once without the need of reading from multiple collections. That's another way to do that.
Okay, that's a like a hybrid, right? Hybrid approach. We sell a part of the information in the meal only.
Yes. So I would say if you'd like to separate these two, that's okay as long as you save the ID and name in this object here instead of just passing the ID. If I just save the ingredient ID, that would not be efficient for reading. But if you're saving the ID and name, then that's fine. And you will have the name in both.
So,
Okay.
Professor,
Yeah.
in other words, like you're saying that we don't need, it's not necessary to create another schema for ingredients, right?
For this requirement, not necessary. If you have different requirements, it might be necessary. So for me, I'm not going to pick the ingredient from a list. I would like the user to write the ingredient themselves.
So, like, if let's say that I created a schema for ingredients and then I added the schema in the ingredients property, so technically the MongoDB will create an object like an object ID, right? Whenever I created one meal, there will
Well,
be
you have to inject, yeah. Yeah, continue, yes.
yeah, because that's how I did the assignment. So
Yes.
it automatically created an object ID for the ingredients itself. So does it make it part of the meal or it will be like going to be another collection?
In case we did separate meal and ingredient collection, whenever you are pushing a new ingredient, you would pass the underscore ID with the ingredient name together. So MongoDB doesn't choose another random underscore ID for the ingredient because you already defined that ID for the ingredient in a different collection. Okay?
Okay, got it.
So MongoDB will pick an ID every time I add a new meal, every time I add a new picture, add a new ingredient, and add a new brand. Always it's gonna add it for me, unless I give it to MongoDB. And if we have a collection for any of these separate, you probably need to provide MongoDB with the ID so it doesn't pick one randomly, because you have already added it in the other collection. And that will only help for a reason of renaming, in case there was any renaming. But I mean, if I have an ingredient called olive oil, what could possibly you rename it for? The rename would be just not a business requirement. So we pick the structure based on what works best for our application. Any other questions? Since I'm doing accessing two methods on Mongoose, I could destructure these methods and remove Mongoose from here. That's a shortcut. Okay. Now that I have my model, let's refactor our controllers to have it work with MongoDB. Now remember this meal, I always like to have it with capital letter, just makes more sense because I create instance from it. So it's just like a naming convention. Let's work with meals controller first. I'm going to remove this file and replace it with my model, which is meal from meals model. Now I'm going to work with this one as a collection. So how can I get all the meals? I can say const results equal meal dot find, and find will bring me with an empty query, will find me all the meals. Since I only need the meals, I don't need any more details. I can add some projection. For example, I can say it's either ones or zeros. I'm gonna keep this one next to me so I can refer. So you probably need the title and category without the others. So I'm gonna add title 1 and category 1. This way we only get these two without the rest of the information, and I'm gonna return back the results. Next query, I wanna add a new meal. Okay. So const results equal meal dot create. Of course, you can create a new meal and then save it, but create will do both of them. And to create, I can pass a new meal. That will save a new meal inside the collection. And now I can send back the results. Now what I forget to do in both lines is that all
Professor,
queries are asynchronous. Yes?
sorry. In the get meals function, what happens if you just like make like meal that fine and then only you for in the like as a parameter you only put like the two curly braces without like the title and the category one. What will happen?
The entire document will be returned, all of this. What I want is just the title and category. I don't want the pictures and ingredients.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I see like you put one, it will return only one or
No, one, it means this is projection. And when I say one in a projection means I need this as part of the result. If I pass 0, it means do not bring me this. So instead of 1, I can say picture 0 and ingredients 0. This will bring exactly the same results as the previous one. Here I'm turning off pictures and ingredients, and the previous query was I'm turning on title and category. That's the meaning of 1 and 0 in the projection part.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sir?
Yes?
How about the nested structure? For example, if I only want the ingredients names, how would you write that?
Yeah, I would say ingredients.name 1. I will do that when we do the ingredients as well.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
you just say ingredients.name 1. That will bring only the name. Okay. Any more questions? So I was saying I forget to convert all my functions to become asynchronous. So let me do that real quick. Because I need to await all my queries. Because they are, if I don't, then I'm gonna send undefined and defined every single time. Because this is asynchronous and it will immediately process the next line before the result is assigned. So I need to await or add .then, read the results and then send them out. I find the await is much more elegant to read. Next query. I need to find one meal by ID. Meal.find one. I need to find one meal. And I'm going to pass the ID, which comes from the parameter. Now you could also pass some projection. Let's do that. I'm gonna pass the same projection. That turn off pictures and ingredients. Give me everything else. Now, once we finish this line, I need to wait and then send the response out as JSON. Next query, I want to remove a meal. Wait, meal.remove one. Remove one would require which one you want to remove, and I want to delete this one. So the query would be the underscore ID is the meal ID. Once you finish, you send back the results of the delete query. The last query is update one meal by ID. And when I'm updating a meal, if I remember, I used to update the title here. Okay, so I'm going to use update const results equal wait meal dot update one. I'm going to update one meal, which is underscore ID equal meal ID. And here I have the updated meal. So whether it's full or part, it's up to you now. How do you want to design this one? So now this work as patch more than put, because I'm only going to update the title, meal title. And for the update part, I'm going to use set. I want to set the title as this updated meal will be the full body, and this body will be an object. So I'm going to say updated meal, a new title, And there is no property called new title. It's called title, which I'm going to rename to new title. And now I can pass a new title here. So set the title property to the new title. And I'm going to send the results once the query finishes.
Professor, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What if I needed to patch, but since it's not known that which part of the collection I'm going to patch or I'm going to update?
Then I would construct this based on conditions from what you receive from the body. So let's say you don't know what properties are passed in the body. So start with an empty object, and every time you read the property, add it to this object, and at the end, pass this object to the update query. So construct the update part dynamically based on the data that you receive from the request body. That would be one option.
Professor?
Yes?
I have a question on the delete mail. I see that we have another function is delete one, and you use remove one. Are they the same?
I don't know about delete one or remove one. I just remember that it was called remove one. If that one didn't work, I will replace it with delete one. Because the API keep changing, to be honest. Mongoose, delete, document. I don't know. How do I remove document in Mongoose?
Yeah, I have used delete one as well. It just takes an ID object. It works.
Okay, so it's delete one. So probably I forgot the API. As we test, we will figure this out.
Professor,
Yes.
both one is valid.
I think MongoDB's API is remove one and Mongoose is delete one. One of, or vice versa. We will see now. As we test, we will see.
API.
Yeah.
I tested.
I can't hear you.
Professor,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So by doing the meal ID in line 49, are we doing projection here?
No. Update query, like this. Update, you pass query, and you pass an update part. An update operation does not have projection.
Okay.
Only find has a projection. The first part is the query, the second one is projection. An update query does not have projection. An update query looks like this. Query, update, and options. Find query with all its variations has query and projection. So we don't have projection in an update. Okay?
Okay, so what are we doing by the ID 51, line 51?
I'm saying, find me this meal, find me this document, and update it this way.
Okay.
Okay? So my query inside the update is, find me a meal that has underscore ID equal the meal ID. And the update part is patch the title with this new value. Is it clear now?
So that means it updates all meals.
No, I'm updating only the meal that has underscore ID meal ID. If I say here empty and I replace update one with update many, then all the meals will have the new title, which is not something that's what we don't want in this case. I want to update a single meal that has this specific ID to change its title.
Okay.
Okay.
Professor, what is the option in the update? Sorry.
Say it again.
The option. I mean the option where you guys see that it has the option.
Yes. So what are the options that we can pass? Yesterday we learned options called array filters. If I want to apply any filters here, there are other also options for example, to return the new data or the previous data that was updated. So we can pass multiple options to the update query. Check the documentation to see what other options. Now, next, when I start working on the ingredients or possibly brands, you will see that I'm going to pass options, which are array filters, to define some sort of filters and use them in my update query.
Yep, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions?
Yes. So how are we going to differentiate the patch and update?
I didn't understand patch and update. What do you mean?
Yeah, patching is also updating part of the query, right?
That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing a patch here for the title. If you want to create
No,
a
Professor,
query,
she's asking like the patch bar and also the put bar.
Put, yes.
Since put bar will replace the whole object, and
Yes.
where the patch will
Yeah.
update it.
Yeah. So in this case, it's up to you how to do you want to handle this case. I would probably use the verb replace one, if there is one in Mongoose, to replace all the properties with the sent one. But since my model is very complex, replace does not make any sense because it's certainly unlikely that you will pass all the brands and all ingredients and all pictures if you want to just update the title. That's unlikely the case. That's why my query would make more sense that I just set the new title instead of replacing everything and repass all the data again from the front end to the back end, because that's probably not going to happen. So it is up to the business requirements. Okay.
So this function is called by the patch router instead of
it should be renamed to patch. Yes, I should replace probably put to become patch. So maybe if I revisit the router at some point, maybe inside put, I should call it patch, because I am literally just changing a single property. And I would change my test scenario here to send patch request inside of put. I agree about the naming change. Any other questions? Let's test. Maybe I have some bugs or issues. Let's test. First, give me all the meals. I don't have an up and running server. So npm run start. I'm listening. Good. I currently have absolutely no meals. Let's add one. When we add one, we don't need to send the ID. Let's add one that says cheese sandwich, which like this, and which, yeah, maybe. I don't think we need to add stuff here, extra stuff in Mongoose. Let's add one. It sounds like we successfully added one, and here is its ID. Let's check. Yes, I do have now a category that has, oh, I passed an ID one, that's wrong. I don't, so it was ignored by default since it doesn't match the structure. So that's good. This is the ID of the meal. Sounds good. Let's get only this meal. Yes, that worked. Let me add another meal. Let's call it Zatar sandwich. Lebanese. Let me get both of them. Here's the cheese sandwich, here's the starter sandwich. And if I only need the cheese, here it is the cheese sandwich. So sounds good so far. Let's change the title of the cheese sandwich. I'm gonna call it Syrian cheese sandwich. Batch modified one, which confirmed that something was changed. Let me get that. Yes, it's now Syrian cheese sandwich. And let me remove this Syrian cheese sandwich. Delete. Acknowledge true, deleted one, confirms that something was deleted. Now only the za'atar sandwich remains inside the collection. So far the meal controller is functioning all good. Let's do the ingredients next, okay? So for the ingredients,
Professor,
yes.
I see that like the ID is randomly generated, right?
Yes, whenever you
And
try
in which
add,
situation is like is when we like update something, but in which situation is going to be like change the ID.
you don't want to change the ID. Why would you change the ID?
No, they're gonna change like randomly. When we delete and we update again, we pause again.
No, every single time you push a new item, it will has its own unique ID that never existed before. Okay?
Okay.
So I don't see why would you like to change the ID in case of patch or delete. Because you have an ID, I want to change it. You change the data, not the ID. When you delete the meal by ID, then this document and ID are removed forever. You will never get the same ID again if you push a new meal. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Professor.
Yes.
So in this case, can we call the ingredient a subdocument, or is it just part of the document?
No, it is not subdocument. It is just a rich document. So the meal is a rich document that has an array of ingredients. But ingredient object is not document. Ingredients is just an object inside a property in a document. So this one is a document, yes. But this one is not document. And this one is not document. This is just an object inside brands that belongs to ingredient that belong to a document, which is the meal. Yeah.
So can you please?
So only this one is document. The
What
pictures are not
subdocument
documents. There is no concept of subdocument. There is no subdocument. We have a document that has an array of pictures. So pictures are simply just objects inside the document. Array of ingredients and array of brands.
So in the slide says it's like embedded documents.
Which slide? I'm not sure which context that you're talking about. So
And the
can you
yesterday
be more
slide
specific? Yeah, where can you tell me
in
which?
the 10th page of the yesterday slide. Document data model. So while you may contain other documents. The 7th slide, 10th page.
This is number 3, yes.
I miss 7. Yeah.
7.
So the third line says like it's called
Values may
embedded.
contain other documents, embedded documents, arrays, and array of documents. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see your point here. Yeah, but I would avoid to call them documents, even though I call this rich document because it has array of pictures. But I mean, it would be just a little bit confusing if I call this object document. I know that the document represent objects, but to avoid any confusion, let's not call them embedded documents. But yeah, probably we could call them embedded documents. But I'm afraid it will, but I'm afraid it will create little confusion, but that's why you mentioned not to do that. Yeah.
So why the pictures and ingredients has each of one they has an ID. So since they have an ID, I think they are documents or something.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I agree with that. Since they have ID and auto-generated, then they're kind of documents.
Thank you.
Professor?
Yes.
So, so if the brand's ingredients are embedded,
Yes.
why is it generating a new ID for them?
Every document should have an ID so you can identify this object, search by it, update it, delete it. If it doesn't have ID, how are you going to know which?
I'm saying, so
Yeah.
isn't one ID enough for the title for the whole one object?
Yes, we
So
have only one ID for the meal, but I need also ID for the picture, and I need an ID for the ingredient, and an ID for the brand. Just like the array, what we did before, the same here. Every single sub-object, you need to identify that object inside the array. So if I don't have an ID for the ingredients, how am I supposed to update one by name? What if they both two have the same name?
okay, so it will automatically generate the ID for them too?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So you will notice like next when I try to add a new ingredient, automatically the ingredient will have an underscore ID. Currently what we accomplished is this. I think I called it database. This one week to April meals. So that's the current. I have a title, category, and pictures is empty, ingredients are empty so far. Next, we're going to add ingredients. Okay?
Okay.
So now what are ingredients? It's an array of embedded documents. It's an array of objects. Every single time I need to do changes to ingredients, I need to update the meal. So all my queries would be an update queries, right? Let's do that. Let me grab an instance of the meal model and comment out the basic file that we used before. Now I don't need this helper function because my queries should support finding the meal. So how am I supposed to get the ingredients of a meal? Well, I can say const. Since I have the meal, then I need to find the meal by ID. So I can say results equal wait meal.find1. Find me the meal. So find me underscore ID equal meal ID. because I'm only interested in the ingredients, so I can say ingredients 1. So I don't return anything else. Now, once this is done, I can send the response back and say, send me back the results. Now I'm going to use await everywhere, so I'm going to convert all my functions to be async. And I'm going to clean them out as well. So the first query is, find me this meal that I passed its ID, and projection just to send back the ingredients. Now I can send results.ingredients, so I don't get anything else. Next, I need to add a new ingredient. Adding new ingredients is an action of pushing item to the ingredients array. So to do that, const results equal await meal.update1. Update this meal. What do I want to do with it? I want to push to the ingredients, the new ingredient. When I finish, I send back the results. Update, as you can see, has 2 parts. The first one is the query, update this meal, and push to the ingredients the new ingredients. That would make it much more readable.
I have a question. In the previous case, can't we just print the result? Why do we need to mention results.ingredients since we've already mentioned here in the projection like ingredients 1?
Yeah, when you say ingredients 1, it doesn't mean that you're sending just the ingredient. Okay. To explain to you the difference, let's add a new ingredient and then they show you the difference between the two. So test meal and test ingredient. I need from the meal ID. Currently, it doesn't have anything. Okay. Let's add 1 to it. Here is, I don't need ID. I'm just going to add human. So nothing has happened. So something is wrong with my post query. If it was successful, I should see modified count 1. Since I see modified count still 0, it means something is wrong in my query. So let's revisit that. Add new ingredients, get the meal ID, update the meal, push to ingredients, paste new ingredients. I wonder if I have any data. So I have name, amount. This is optional. Ingredients. Did I misspell anything?
So I think the ID, mail ID is wrong.
Yeah. No, I think the underscore ID.
Is
it should only be ID.
The mail ID, I think, is already deleted.
Oh, you're right. The mail ID was deleted. I have now a different, the Lebanese, whatever ID. You're right. So the mail that we have is this one. And I used the wrong meal here. So let me push. Now it was pushed. Now, as you can see, when I try to get all the ingredients, I get an object that has the underscore ID, and then a property called ingredients that has the ingredients. Now, when I say send me results.ingredients, I'm only sending this array without this property and without this ID. So that's the only difference. But actually, this is not a big deal. Okay. So let me go back to the code. You can certainly also turn underscore ID here 0, not to send it back. But you still have an extra property called ingredients. So if I say send me results dot ingredients, this way when I test, I'm only gonna get an array of ingredients without the extra stuff. So that's the only thing why I did that, but doesn't matter. Any other questions? Sure. How do I get one ingredient only? So here I'm sending the ingredient that I need. And this is the only one that I need. Okay. So const results equal wait meal dot find one because it's one meal. And you can say underscore ID is meal ID. Now you could include, you could keep the query like this and get all the ingredients and then filter them out and send the results. But that would not be ideal because what you really need is the database to send you just a single ingredient. You don't want the database to send you all the ingredients and you filter them out. So we have to use some sort of projection to only return back one ingredient. Now this query, you probably guessed, response.json results, is going to send you the full meal with multiple ingredients. Let's add another ingredient, by the way, cumin, coriander, send, okay? So now I have two ingredients. And when I say send me the cumin, that's the object ID. Oh, it's not one. When I say send me cumin, I get everything. I said the entire document. So certainly we need some projection here. So you might think, hey, how about I say, I add a projection to this and I say only send me ingredients, one, and underscore ID 0. Well, in this case, you still have two ingredients. I only need the cumin and I pass this ID. Why I'm getting coriander too? Because by default, all the results are going to be sent out. So we still need to tune this one. So how about we add the ingredient ID to the query? So you can say ingredients dot underscore ID is this underscore ID. This is just going to help fetching the same document. So that's never going to change the results. I'm still getting cumin and coriander. Now what I can do is to filter out this results just to bring me back the one that has specific index. We learned this technique yesterday. So what I can say, ingredients dot index 1 or index 5 or whatever, because I get access to this index from this part. Now send me only this one back and hide underscore ID. Now if we test the query, only cumin was sent back. So in this code example, I'm using the $sign as an index because I was searching for an array element in here, and use it in projection, which is very common technique to filter out the results that you are receiving back. So that would be the ultimate query, because I'm sending a requirement and I'm getting exactly what I need back. Can we tune it better? Let's see. So what I'm receiving here is ingredients dot blah blah blah. So maybe we could tune that out a little bit better. So I can say results dot ingredients. This way I get an array of one element. That will be better. Any questions about getting a single ingredient?
Professor, I
Yes.
see that it still returns the array. Is it correct?
Say it again.
It still returns an array.
I didn't understand. Your voice is quite.
When you run this query, it returns an array. It's not return an object.
You want to return an object, then you can just say 0 here. That will return just an object, this ingredient. It's up to you. What you design your API to send general or standard response. Next week, we're going to regret that all this API would be the worst API designed ever next week. The reason is every query sends us different results. We don't have consistency in what we send back. So this API really not still tuned. A better design would be if we send, for example, success Boolean, and then result object. You should expect always success Boolean and result object. And you can always read success to know whether something went wrong or not. And you always know that what the shape of this result is going to be if you type them. We will make all these changes next week as we develop the front end. For now, sending back the default response is fine.
Sir?
Yes?
So get ingredient by ID function.
Where?
Even in the line number 33.
Yes.
So even we don't include the meal ID, it still work, right?
Yes, if we don't include the meal ID, it's gonna still work. Why? Because ingredients ID is also unique between all meals. But underscore ID has an index. So adding the underscore ID part here is just going to make the query way faster than not including the underscore ID.
It means
Because
like
now, yeah, you target
difference.
Yes,
Okay.
you target the meal directly here. And then you find the index and use it to projection. So yeah, but without it, it's still gonna work. Save. And I'm gonna test. Still gonna send me this single because
okay.
the ingredient ID is basically unique. So I found it and filtered by it. But I would add the underscore ID just for the purpose of making the query faster.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Let's delete an ingredient, and the action of deleting ingredient is basically removing item from an array. So you can say const results equal await meal dot update 1, and you want to update the meal, And what you want to do is to pull from ingredients an ingredient that looks like this. Underscore ID equal ingredient ID. And when you finish, you just send the results back. So update the meal to remove from ingredients an ingredient that has this specific ID. Let's try to remove, let's see all the ingredients. So we have cumin and coriander. Let's remove coriander. So delete coriander from this meal. Delete. Modified one, it means deleted. Let's check. Yes, I no longer have coriander in my list of ingredients. So let's add ingredient coriander back. Here it is. Another coriander came back. Now let's update one of the ingredients. So let's update the same cumin. So the cumin amount is currently pinch. So I'm going to make it a couple of pinches instead of just a pinch. How do we do that? Let's write the code for that. Const results equal wait meal dot update one. You want to update the meal. So I say underscore ID meal ID. Now I need to update a single item inside an array. What do I need? The index. If I don't know the index, I cannot change it. So how do I grab the index of the ingredient? I need to add the ingredient as part of the query. So I get access to the index. So I say ingredient dot underscore ID is the ingredient ID. That will provide me with the $sign to perform my updates. And my update would be to set the ingredient dot $sign dot name with basically amount with the new amount. Amount with the new amount. So let's create something called new amount. So this body is going to send me back an amount. I'm going to destructure amount and rename it to new amount. Yes, questions?
Sorry, yeah. Can I also write if I want to, let's say that whether I included or not, is it okay if I just mention all the properties, amount, name, and then?
Yes, if they were sent from the body, then yes. For me, in this very specific requirement, I'm just going to send one. But yeah, you should basically, you should mention all of them or construct all of them based on what you receive from the body. Let's test changing this ingredient. Modified 0, it means it did not work. So let's see what happened here. So the cumin is EB. EB incorrect. This meal ID is correct. I'm sending amount. Put amount from the body. I renamed it to new amount. Okay. Now meal update one. Say updates. Underscore ID is meal ID. The ingredient dot ID is the ingredient underscore ID. It's ingredients. I missed here an S. dot $sign dot amount is the new amount. There was a typo. Let's change. Still modified count 0. Have another problem. Still a pinch. So set ingredients dot this ingredient $sign dot amount to the new value.
I think you deleted that ingredient, right?
Excuse me,
That
the line number 60 is all you forgot the S.
also
Ingredients.
line number 60, I forget an S, you're right. Cumin, I deleted coriander and re-added coriander, but I didn't touch the cumin. The cumin is a staple in my cuisine. Never delete. Okay, so it was an S, most probably. Now modified 1, it was the S. And now the cumin amount is a couple of pinches. So that's good. So the query reads as the following. Update this meal just to make the finding the document easier. We certainly don't need this section, but it's best to add it. Then I added the ingredient ID to the query to provide me with which item inside the array I need to change. And I use this index inside my set update part to only update the ingredient that has this specific ID dot amount with the new amount. So that's how the query reads. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Professor, when testing, except that for the get method, the first get method that gets all the meals or all the ingredients,
yes.
we are using IDs. So
yes.
do we have to type this object ID?
Yes, the front end is certainly need to send back this object ID so you get the ingredients for the specific meal.
Okay, so we need to type the object ID exactly as it is, like
yes,
even
you
in
would
the
code it. Yeah, you will code that at the
yeah.
front end at some point.
It's easy to do it in ID, but we might misspell it in paper.
Oh no, in paper you will not write a test scenario. Yeah, on the paper you just need to implement the controller.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Imagine I'm gonna ask you to write all these IDs.
Professor,
Any other questions? Yes.
the exam will be on paper?
Yes, the exam is going to be on paper.
Okay, thank you.
Old-fashioned pen and paper. Yes.
Professor?
Yes.
The API update and add new ingredient or the meals I'm using the add to set, it give me the same results. So if this question it come to the exam, can I use the add to set?
Yes, definitely. Add to set and push will work the same in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Then replace it with add to set to make you happier a little bit. Good, you are happier. Any other questions? I say let's take 10 minutes to break. Yeah, question?
Yeah, can you help me to test again the function update ingredient?
What about the update ingredient function? Yes.
Yes, can you help me to test it again? I would like to see if the ingredient ID is changed.
Yeah, the ingredient ID did not change. When you do the set this way, it never changed. But if I do something like this, the ID would change. So make sure that you write your query in appropriate way. So here basically you're replacing the entire item at this index with this object. So that will change also the ID. But when I do this, I maintain the old ID and I only change the amount. Very good question.
Yeah, so it means that if we have multiple fields and we would like to update which one, we have to define like this.
That's why when Ray2 asked me, I told her, how about we construct this part dynamically based on what we have, so we maintain this syntax, ingredient dollar property, ingredient dollar property, if the property exists or has a value from the body. This way we can dynamically construct a query that does not have to change the underscore ID of the ingredient. I myself used to write something like this, and generating a new ID is going to mess up your front end because you have to get the new ID and then change something at the front end. You don't want to do that. This one is certainly safer. Any other questions? Let's take a 10-minute break. After the break, we are going to implement REST API for brands to CRUD operations on a second level array inside the meals document. It would be really nice and interesting to work on this. So let's take a break for now. right? Let's work on brands. So every single time I need to make any change to a new brand, I need to do it within an ingredient that belong to a meal. So you probably have guessed that most of your queries should start by querying the meal and then finding the ingredient and then finding the brand property inside the ingredient to push, pull, update one brand within that ingredient. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to create a router for separate router for the brands. So we don't need to. I'm going to copy the ingredients router and add brands router. And that will have brands ID. Can replace ingredients with brands and single ingredients with the brand. So sounds good to me. I'm going to go to brands controller. That's good. That's good. That's good. Renaming. Since I added the router, let me hook this router with the ingredients. I'm gonna say here router.use. If somebody went to this URL /brands, then I'm gonna use the brands router. Come on, be smart. That's commerce. Import from brands router. Right. Let's now that we created the brands router, let's create the brands controller. I'm going to go my controllers. Control-C, Control-A, new file, brands controller, JS, paste. And I'm going to remove all my queries. Well, this time I'm gonna keep the return results because I'm rewriting this every time. Yeah, I cleaned it up, kinda. And let me do some renaming here. Replace ingredient with brand. Good. So the first controller is to get all the brands. And we're certainly now passing two parameters, the meal ID and the ingredient ID to this first couple of routes. And now when I try to update or delete or get the brand, I'm sending the ingredient ID and the brand ID. So I have here the ingredient ID and the brand ID. And here's the same. Yeah. Save, sounds good. Let's start with the first route. To get all brands, I'm going to have a query, const result equal weight meal dot find one because it's a single meal and certainly underscore ID is the meal ID. I'm going to try to do the same technique. Hopefully we will get only the brand that I want. So we will have to experiment here with the projection. How can I get only that brand? And in order to do that, let's add a couple of brands. So we could test and see whether get, oh, this will send me all the brands. That will be super easy, yeah. But here for, we will tune this query next. But let's work on the add new brand now to just start seeing brands and get them back. So in order to add a new brand, you have to push it to inside an ingredient that's marked in here. Okay. So I'm gonna say const results equal weight meal.update1. I'm gonna update the meal, and I'm gonna update an ingredient as well. And I have now the underscore ID to tell me which ingredient. Now it's easy to push or add to set. Both of them will be fine. So push to ingredients dot the ingredient that match the query dot brands. You want to push the new brand. This is not a valid property name. I'm going to add quotation to make it valid. So that should push the new brand into the ingredients array, the specific ingredient that I specified, dot brands. Let's test add most of the few brands and see how we can get them all. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my test. I don't have one. Copy this one because it has the IDs and add test brands.js. Sorry. It's going to be test brands.http. Good. So I need the ingredient ID, and here I'm working with the cumin. So an ingredient has a specific shape. Let's remember what is it. Oh, it just has a name. Okay, that's easy. Test brands. So a brand, let's say brand A. When the file was JavaScript, it messed up my formatting. All right, let's test adding a new ingredient. Route found. So meals something, ingredients something. Of course, when you push a new brand, you need /brands at the end. Okay. So let's add /brands everywhere. Save. Modified count 1, so something is not working properly. I will check the IDs. So I'm going to test meals and check that all the IDs are correct. So we're trying to push to this specific. Well, obviously my data now does not have any ingredient. That's why I failed. So I have this ingredient that ends with 3,4. Test brands 3,4. That's correct. Now let's add new ingredient. So I'm going to add coriander and cumin. And now since they have two, let's get an idea of one of them. Oh, we filtered out the ingredient list here. That's why it doesn't show. All right, let's go and reveal those out. Get all brands, find one. No, not brands. Meals. Yeah. I need the ingredients. Send me the ingredients, please. Here are cumin, coriander, cumin again. So I pushed them twice. So let's update the first cumin that has a couple of pinches. This one. It ends with EB. I'm going to go back to the brands. Oh, it is EB. Good. So slash brands. So my IDs are correct. However, I still was not able to push this guy. And yeah, it's not pushed. Yeah, so the controller has some issue here. IDs are correct. So let's revisit the controller. Add new brand.
It's in the ingredients, Professor. The ingredients ID.
Oh,
is
same. It says you are right. Let's add brand A. If brand A was added, let's add brand B. Brand B was added. Good. Let's see them. A couple of pinches. Brands now have brand A and brand B. Let's get both brands back from the first query. When I say get all the brands, as you can see, get all the brands now is sending me the entire document. Because when you try to find one, the entire document comes back unless you project. So let's do some projection here. So we learned that if I add the ingredient ID to the query, now I can filter out by only this ingredient ID. So we can say ingredients dot the ingredient that match one, right? So let's see what the results would be. Kind of better now. I just got the single ingredient that has this couple of brands. All other ingredients were not sent back. Only my single ingredient was sent back. Why? Because I added the ingredient, that specific ingredient that I'm searching its brand to the query, and I used its index to only send this ingredient back to the user. Now the results can easily be adjusted just to send back .brands.
Professor, could you please help me to understand what the purpose of the dollar and the end of the property names?
Yeah, the dollar is a reference to the index of this query part. If in MongoDB you add inside your query an array search, the first element that matches the condition, you get its index with the $sign. So what I'm saying here in the projection part of this find query that, hey, ingredients.5, ingredients.2, this 2 or 5 or whatever index that I'm using to return is the one that matched the query. So I'm returning only this one ingredient that matched the query. That's the meaning of the $sign operator. Is it clear? Yeah.
Sir?
And that means you, Professor. One more question here. Since we are filtering the ingredients by the ingredient ID, so that time I already filtered the ingredients, right?
You are not filtering. This is a query. Give me a document that has this ID and this ID in it, and the entire document returns back. The second section is the filtering. The first section is query. The second section in a find is projection. And a query is just the condition will always return the full document. The projection is when you filter out parts to bring back or not to bring back. Okay?
So that means ingredients will refer what ingredient ID we have passed from the API.
Correct, because in the API, I'm saying, give me the brands that belong to this meal and this ingredient. So I use this ID to include this part inside the ingredient array. This way I can filter out by the $sign.
Okay, that means we will now only get the ingredient which has the ingredient ID we have passed from the API.
Correct.
So my second question is here in the add new brand API. So in the add new brand API, you are just pushing the new brand. So
I'm pushing
that
the
time
new
why
brand
you are
into this specific ingredient. Yes.
Since there are multiple ingredients.
Correct. I might inside this meal, I might have 5-6 ingredients. One of them has some brand I want to push into it. Which one? The one that I specified in the query.
Thank you, Professor.
So the $sign still refer to the ingredient
it's like
that
a
match the query.
placeholder for a particular index.
Correct.
Okay.
That you include inside the query. Now, if your query has multiple array conditions, the $sign will fail. It will not work. The $sign only works if you have a single array condition in the query. So you get a reference to its ID. If you have multiple, then MongoDB wouldn't know which one to give you its index.
So,
Sorry, I
Professor,
didn't get it.
Let's say here I included also another array. Let's say pictures ID is this picture ID. Another array. Now the $sign will refer to this array or this array. Which index? That's what I was saying. So your query should have single array condition to get its index that match the condition. Yes, questions?
Yes. So
Yes.
in line 23, the $sign is referring to the brands, the brand that has a new brand. The ingredient, the ingredient that has a new brand.
The $sign refers to the ingredient, not the brand.
The ingredient with a brand of new brand.
I don't know why you're focusing on brands, because the $sign just refers to the ingredient, regardless of whether it has brands or doesn't have brands. This is an index to this specific ingredient that I specify in the query. Can somebody help me do this query in a different way? What can we do to remove this condition from the query? We can define filter. Let me call my filter my ingredient. If my ingredient.id equal the ingredient ID, I can filter all the ingredients by this condition and then add a new brand to it. So now I can apply this filter on the ingredients array, and that will accomplish the exact same thing. Because what I'm saying, hey, go to ingredients, filter them out by this ingredient that I want to update, access the brands, and push to the brands array this new brand. That will also do the exact same thing. Let's test. Let's add brand C. And yes, brand C was also added. So, but since I want to update a single ingredient and not multiple ingredients, the $sign would be sufficient in this case. But if you really want to update multiple ingredients, then your only way to do that is by creating a filter and filter out all the objects that you don't want to update and keep the ones that you do want to update and then change them. Any questions?
Professor, could you please give me an example of multiple array, like previously you mentioned that if there is like a picture, so that time dollar will not work. So could you please give me an example so that we can imagine how that things will. I can actually imagine it.
Yeah, so let's say we wanna update all the ingredients that have what do we have inside ingredient? Just the name? Yeah, it doesn't apply here. But let's say your ingredients have not ingredient. Yeah, your ingredients have oil. So if they have oil, you want to increment all of them by a specific amount, like half a tablespoon. So you say, if the ingredient dot name is oil, then increment all of them amount by, for example, 1. This way, if it was 1 tablespoon, it will become 2. If it was 2 tablespoons, it will become 3 for all the oil ingredients. So this query, for example, it will update all the ingredients dot name oil with 1 extra tablespoon into the amount. That would be, for example, something you could do. Okay. Any other questions?
Professor, the
Yes.
code line number 9.
Yes.
Yes. Could we add the after the $sign? Could we add the brands in there? So we only need brand names, not the ingredient amount or names for the purchasing. Is it possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Here, I just mentioned here the brand, so it's actually the same results. So you don't get like extra thing with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, thank you.
Because I removed it in here, but yeah. Any other question? Let's work on delete a brand and update the brand. To delete a brand, similar to adding the brand, we just need to pull from the ingredients. So count results equal weight meal.update one. Let's update meal. Let's update a certain ingredient. This way I get a reference really quick. And now I can remove it. So pull from where? Pull from ingredients dot the ingredient that match the query dot brands. Remove this brand. So it's kind of like just routine now to work on these queries. Let's remove one of the brands in the test. So let's remove brand B. Delete brand B. Okay, delete. Yes, it was deleted. Let's see. Yes, only A and C left. We could also do the same technique of filtering the ingredients array by an array filter. That also be possible, but since I wanna only filter out these ingredients, then I can use the $sign immediately. Next, let's update this brand. Const results equal weight meal dot update one. I want to update a meal. I want to update an ingredient. I get a reference to the ingredient I want to update. So I want to set, right? What do I want to set? I want to set in an ingredient, some ingredients, which I have reference to, brands dot. Now, which brand do I want to update? That's a problem. I can't say brands.m because brands is an array. So I need to know here which brand I'm updating. So for that reason, obviously we want to define a filter to filter out the brands that I don't want to update. So let's do that. Array filter. And I'm going to create a single filter called my brand. And that will filter the brand that I want to update. Now that I created my filter, I can apply my filter on the brands. And set the name to receiving name. I'm going to rename it to a new name. And then set the name here to the new name. Send out the results. Sounds good. You could also remove this condition from the query and add it to the filters as well. But since it's a single ingredient that I'm changing, you don't have to do that. Let's test the query. So currently I have two brands. Let's update the brand A. So brand A, new name will be a couple of pinches. And something was updated. Good. Let's check. Yes, the first brand now is renamed to a couple of pinches. Now probably any questions?
I have a question.
Professor, can we place the brand ID into the query part?
Yeah, we could, but that wouldn't change anything. So you could also say ingredients dot brands dot underscore ID is this under brand ID.
Okay.
Well, actually, I would say no again, because let's try and see if I'm gonna fail or still be able to do that. So brand Asaad.
Then Professor, could you please remove the filter part?
Yes, that did work. That did work. And I'm gonna tell you why it did work. So now brand Asaad. It did work because my query, yes, it has two array filters, but only one of them is first level. And $sign can only refer to first level arrays. It can never refer to second level arrays. So that's why it still worked. Yes, what was the question?
My question is, if we remove the filter part here, like
no, we cannot. Yeah, that will never work. Because how do you know which brand you're gonna change its name? You can't have two $sign. $sign only one variable that refers to one index from a first level array condition. So no, you cannot remove the array filters because you cannot know which brand then you're gonna update.
So a brand ID we already mentioned in the query part, ingredients dot brands.
Yes,
dot
but
ID.
how do you get a reference to it here? I'm saying, are you using another $sign?
Yes.
Like this? So
yes,
which one is which? Is this or this that? MongoDB has no idea. You can't use same variable with two different values, right? So, and $sign can only refer to first level arrays. It cannot be a reference to second level arrays. So using the $sign here twice isn't going to work.
Okay.
And that's why I didn't include basically that part, because it's not gonna. But it's good because you make sure that the brand exists. I mean, it's good to have it just to make sure the brand does exist before you change its name. Now, if the brand doesn't exist, then nothing will happen and you're good. And yeah, more questions? You saw that I did not implement get brand by ID. Let's try to get the brand by ID. Again, find one is going to bring me the entire document, right? Let's get this brand. And that will return the entire document back. Good. How I get only the ingredients now? But we did that at some point. We just have projection. We added the ingredient ID to the query. And we managed to have here a condition that says ingredients dot $sign 1. And that will bring you the ingredients, all of them. And at least I got rid of the other ingredients. So that's like a step, right? And now you could just send .brands and get this array. Result.brands and you can only send back the brands. But that did not work because result doesn't have dot brands. It has dot ingredients, the single ingredient that you picked, and then dot brands. One step to get all the brands. But still, I'm asking for one specific brand here, and not all of them. I want this brand. Give me all the details about it. Why you're sending me other brands as well. So I need to filter out the brands, and if you think that adding here the brand ID and filter by the brand ID, well, let's try that. So I'm gonna say brand, ingredients dot brands dot underscore ID equal brand ID, and then you see ingredients dot brands dot $1. Let's see the results. I still got all the ingredients, so that's basically similar to the previous condition. We didn't get any improvements. So now, to solve this, we will need to learn more things about aggregation tomorrow and revisit get, because what we could do is to, instead of using find, we will use the verb aggregate and create an aggregation pipeline to process the document. So we will get the meal, and then we work on the meal. We process something inside the meal to filter out all the ingredients, to filter out all the brands, and only receive the single brand that we want to send back. So tomorrow, let's revisit that in the afternoon to tune this last query to only send me one brand that I requested by ID. That didn't help me because now I need to filter like second level array. Any questions?
So, Professor, the dollar can only refer the first level array item, but it can't refer to second level array item.
Yes, correct. And every time I use it, just because I use the condition that refer to a first level array item. I couldn't use it here, if you remember when I tried to use it for brands. Third level arrays and future levels would be exactly the same as second one. You just access the properties and filter them out. Okay. Try to revisit all your work from the homework. If you find yourself like missed something or part, try to revisit these and implement the code and practice with the controllers and queries. Let's build up a web server to try something about the geolocation, I would say, since we have time to do that. So what we wanted to do here is consider schema, collection, geolocation. When I insert, I guess I already have a schema that looks like this. I cannot find. Oh, I don't have it because I coded this example downstairs on the other computer. So we need to create one here. Okay, let's do that then. So name, category, and location, and we want to search by category for the nearest points. These are the requirements. So let's create geo server JS. I'm going to create a new script that says geo server, which is going to run node1 with geo server.js. Don't have me a router here. We're gonna connect to the same database, that's fine. Let me create geo server new database. Okay. Everything is the same setup. Let's
Professor,
create
do we
schema.
need the immediate
Yes.
invocation function here?
Do we need what?
Do we need the immediate invocation function here for connecting to the MongoDB?
This one?
And the function, immediate invocation function. Do we need it? Since we are using a08 mongoose.connect, so it's already a function. So it will call it. So why we are putting this thing into a immediate invocation function?
I'm not sure if await was.
Yeah, I tested. So for me, it works.
Yeah, for me it worked too. For me it also worked. For someone who doesn't have the latest version, then might need to add async. But apparently the version of Node that we are using does support first level or global async. So we don't have to add it. Okay, let's add the schema and then create a route to search by location. So I'm gonna create a schema here. So mongoose dot schema. And apparently we need, what was it? Name and category and location. And location is an array of numbers. Now let's have a model. So const geo model equal mongoose dot model j. Actually, I don't need this instance because I'm not going to export. I'm going to use it in the same file. So geo model slash, I need the reference to the schema. So let me pass the schema here, since I'm not exporting anything. Now that I have my geo model, I can use it somehow in some sort of route. Let's call it search. Async, request response and next. And let's define our try catch. Good. Now let's add a few points. Hit refresh. We should see a database called geo server. Geo server. Oh, I'm not running this server. I'm running the old server still. npm run geo server. Okay, that sounds like a good error. So my first error is location numbers is not defined. Yeah, because it's a single number, not numbers. All right, now let's refresh. Now I have the geo server database, geo model. Let's add some data. I want to insert the document right now. Here's an underscore ID. That is going to be painful. So we need a name. Let's call it everybody's. The category is going to be string shopping. And the location is going to be an array of numbers. Pick a big number. I think we need double. I think we need double. Add item to location. Okay. Good. Let's pick the coordinates of everybody's. So everybody's location is, this is the long. And this is the lat. Item not permitted by document contains error. What is the error? Let's insert our item from the route. Okay. Geo model dot create, and let's pass our object. Let me get the location again. I close the map. Okay. Google has this flipped around, so I'm gonna flip them back. Need to send the longitude first and then the latitude. So here is one point. Let me get another point that's further. Let me get the Central Park.
Professor, you add the wrong request. Should we post?
I know, I'm just gonna add this data as a dummy data. And I want to test it just from the browser or anywhere. The name is Central Park. Category is also shopping. Let's say we can shop as well there. And then the location would be these two values. Let me switch these two. Let's add this data to the database. I'm not going to send anything. Okay, let's send some results. Response to JSON. Okay. JModel is not defined.
I think it's the post. Should be post.
All right, we added this data. Let's check them out. Refresh. Yes, I do have 2 points. Now our job is to create an index on the location field. So I could go to the indexes tab, try to add an index. I didn't find 2D. I only find 2D sphere, and I don't want to use the 2D sphere. I want to use the 2D index. Cancel. I'm going to create the index manually. So DB variable here would refer to tests. I want DB to refer to the GeoServer database. So I'm going to say use GeoServer. Now DB as a variable would refer to the GeoServer database. So DB dot, my collection is called Geo Models dot create index. And I want to create an index on the location field. The type of the index would be 2D. Now let me refresh my indexes. Now I have 2 indexes created, the natural one and the location from type 2D. Now all my data about the location are indexed. I can search by these points. All right, let's try to search then. Now I can completely get rid of this route. I just use it to inject some points. To search, we just need to wait some results. Geo model dot find all the documents that have location that is near this location. And the location could be anywhere. Let's go back to the map and pick a location. Sorry, maps.google. So let's say I live at the public library here. So the nearest point will be the Central Park, and everybody's would be further from me, right? So let's pick this point. Not only that, let's have another condition. Let's say the category is also shopping. So show me the nearest shopping centers if I am in this point. Let's see the results. So test geo.http, test send a get request, http localhost 3000/geo. What did we call that out? Search, I guess. And yes, I get Central Park first and everybody next. What if I am at MIU or here, somewhere here, and I need to search the nearest shopping centers? What's going to happen? Let me change the location. Switch the points. Longitude first, latitude next, then test. And now I get everybody's first and then Central Park next. So it's always searching by nearest to furthest. Now, the interesting thing about this query is going to find all the documents that are found. So you probably want to always limit the results, so you don't send every single point in your application. So you can say, hey, send me the nearest 10 shopping centers around me. So you don't send all of them, hundreds or thousands. So I just wanted to show you an example of how you can implement geolocation in your application and probably search by these points. Any questions?
Yes, Professor. About the
Yes.
2D sphere, what
Yes.
if we don't apply the 2D sphere type?
Yeah, the 2D sphere, you should have your data structured differently. So for the 2D sphere, your data shouldn't be two numbers. Your data should be an object. 2D sphere, your data should be an object. Here's one example that has type, and you probably the type would be point here. So 2D sphere respect the geo location specifications. I don't remember exactly what specifications. GeoJSON specifications. So let's search by these. Geolocation specs. Here's GeoJSON. Yeah, so that's how basically your object should look like. It should be an object that has type, for example, point, and then coordinates, which are the longitude and latitude. That's how your data should look like. And after that, you should use the geometry or geo within. So your query even would be different. But that's why I didn't need to add all this complexity. I can just search by nearest point within the same city. So if you're searching within one city, you don't need 2D sphere. It's just too much complex. But if you're searching within the same city for nearest friends and services, then 2D would be enough on a flat surface. That's why I choose 2D. Any other questions? Also, try in the afternoon when you have time to maybe have some fun with this, add more points, try to change your location and see how it all works. Good. I hope with that now everybody will become comfortable with MongoDB, practice with querying, all kind of scenarios that come up to you. And tomorrow we will learn about aggregation, the aggregation pipeline, and see how MongoDB scales up and provide high availability as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, as you know, get in touch with me.
Professor, I have a question.